Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a video about my anxiety. Also, I don't know if you can like see this thing on my neck, but like my eczema's acting up, so just ignore it. I also put a full face of makeup on because why not? Makeup makes me feel very good. This wasn't necessary, but I did it anyway. So, I have my little trusty notebook, and I'm going to talk to you guys about my anxiety, when I first discovered I had anxiety, when I decided to seek help and all of that, and I hope that it can maybe help some of you. So I would say that I started having anxiety actually when I was probably a child. I specifically remember having a panic attack in my pediatrician's office and a nurse having to come over to me in the waiting room and calm me down. And I don't know what exactly triggered it, but I remember that. And also I think just for some context, I grew up in a world pre and post 9/11. I was 9 when 9/11 happened, so I wasn't a kid, but I was old enough to understand what was going on. And this was also, you know, the time of lockdowns, and what if someone comes in, you know, there were things like that. And I think that didn't help, and I would think of situations like that and that would be put into my head. But I also think it didn't help that I was a kid that never slept. So I never ever got enough sleep all the way through college. Even now as an adult, I don't. And I think that also contributed to this. However, it wasn't until I got to college that I recognized that I had anxiety. I became a total perfectionist starting my senior year of high school. I was so desperate to go to FIT because it was my dream school, and I got in. And then when I got to college, I kind of panicked because I never had to study when I was in high school. I was a pretty smart kid. And then I got to college and I started worrying about everything. I think I worried that my parents weren't going to help me out with my schooling unless I got like all A's. I also lived in New York City, which was busy. I also had a roommate situation where like my first roommate ended up moving out, and I'm pretty sure like I was the problem because that was weird. And it wasn't until like my sophomore year of college that my anxiety just like peaked. I was taking a retail math class that was really hard. There were other things going on that I was just anxious about, like everything. I was so anxious to the point where I was having chest pains. That's how anxious I was. And then I remember one morning waking up and thinking to myself, recognizing that, okay, I had anxiety, but I woke up and I was like, is this what depression feels like? I was tired. I woke up tired. I woke up sad. It was like nothing could make me happy. And people know me as a very upbeat person, but this one particular day, it just like all came and hit me at once. And I remember it took like hours until I didn't feel this way. Like I went to class and it took me I sat at Starbucks. I will never forget this. I sat at Starbucks, put on One Direction, and like that's what pulled me out. But I remember waking up and thinking, oh my God, I was driving myself nuts. And then senior year, I was driving myself even more nuts because I couldn't find a job. And I was trying to secure a job before I graduated. I also would get myself anxious over tests. I'm not a good test taker. I never was a good test taker, but the feeling of like panic and those chest pains wasn't until I think my parents kind of said like, oh, you have anxiety, and it was like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. I think also the anxiety came from the fact that going to the Fashion Institute of Technology, I went to school with, you know, very fashionable people, and I always felt like I had to dress a certain way and look a certain way, and that also put a lot of pressure on me. I had also gained a lot of weight, and that wasn't helping. There were just all these factors, but it wasn't until then that I actually recognized like, oh, this is what I have. And then a year goes by. I did not get a job right away after college. I was interning, and I remember thinking, oh my God, for like a few months, I've actually felt good. I remember writing a Tumblr post and being like, I haven't felt anxious in like a year. I mean, it had to have been less than a year, but I wasn't feeling anxious for once. And that was a really big deal. Now also, to let you guys know, anxiety does run in my family, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I got to a point where I wasn't anxious. And then I got my first big girl job, as I would say. And I really liked it, but I was commuting from my parents' house, and this job was a lot more stressful than what I was used to. And I got so anxious to the point where I was pretty much on the brink of having an anxiety attack every single day. Like, I would sit at my desk, I would have to listen to a podcast, for example, Straight Talk with Ross Matthews. That podcast was like my therapy for a while. I would have to listen to like a funny podcast because I was so anxious. I like didn't want to eat lunch. I felt like I had to do 5 things at once. I felt like I couldn't get my work done. I just got so worked up, and it got to the point where I realized I need to talk to someone because I can't go on like this. This is not good. In fact, I became so stressed that I had a breakdown one night. I just had a full-blown breakdown on the phone with my parents. Full blown. And it sucked. I had been encouraged to seek therapy from some family members, my parents included. My dad was in therapy when I was younger, and I actually didn't know that. He had anxiety. So I told this to my parents, and my dad first said to Google the American, I'm reading this on my notebook, American and Depression Association of America. And I went on there, and it was really, it was just, there was a lot. There was too much information. I really needed to maybe check with like my insurance, or it was just not a good like square one. So I told this to my mom, and she said, let me ask so-and-so, who was our neighbor from back home and who is a psychologist. And she said, let me ask her and see if she knows maybe of any doctors in the city, and you can call them and maybe they'll take our insurance. So she knew someone immediately and said, I know someone that I think Jamie would really love, and recommended her. And thankfully she took my insurance, and thankfully she was taking new patients, and I went in for a consultation, and then I have now been seeing her on a weekly basis for 2+ years. And here I am today. I have not healed. And did I start going to seek therapy for my work anxiety? Yes. But I also sought therapy because I have other anxieties. I have realized I have social anxieties. I've realized I'm socially awkward a little bit. Sometimes I just need someone to talk to, and sometimes I go to her office and I like don't have anything crazy to tell her. I still have panic attacks. In fact, I had a really bad panic attack, which my doctor thinks was possibly caffeine induced. Out of nowhere, I had a panic attack like 2 in the morning. I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I told myself, and I can't believe this has happened, I have told myself when I get panic attacks that this will pass, this will pass, this is temporary. Breathe, just breathe, like I'm talking to myself. It got to the point where I called the nurse's line on my insurance and I told her what was happening, and she was the one who calmed me down. Like, as crazy as that sounds. And I really thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital, but she stayed on the phone with me. She told me to breathe. I thought I was having chest pains. I my hands claw, and it was the same exact feeling I had when I was in that waiting room at the pediatrician. My hands were clawing, I felt numb, and this nurse helped to calm me down. So if you have panic attacks and you have a nurse's line for your insurance, I highly recommend keeping that on hand, especially if your panic attacks like mine happen at 2 o'clock in the morning. I haven't totally healed. Do I still get anxious at work? Yeah, I do. Do I still get anxious about life? Yeah, I do. And I think my anxiety has held me back a little bit, but I've also learned that I have to go outside of my comfort zone, and I can't help sometimes but be anxious, and it's just something that runs in my family. And yeah, I've helped and encouraged other people to seek therapy. I don't think it's something you should hide. I've advised friends on how to seek therapy, and if you do seek therapy, your first therapist may not be the one. One of my friends, it took her 3 tries to get the right person, and she finally did, and it's been helping her a lot. And then I have some friends who went like once or twice and it wasn't for them. So I highly recommend, if you can see someone, please do. Therapy is very expensive, unfortunately. If you can find someone, I just go for it. It's so nice to talk to someone that is not emotionally attached to you in that way. And you find out a lot about yourself in therapy, just in general. So I wanted to end on ways that I cope with my anxiety, in case some of you maybe need some techniques or maybe just need some help. So the first thing I would say is, if you get anxious at work or at school, here is what I do. If I get anxious at my desk, I do one of 2 things. Number 1, I will try and get away from my desk, because I find sitting at my desk is not the best thing in the world, and sometimes I just end up getting more anxious that way. So I would say, if you can, get up, go and get water. If you can, go and take a walk around the block. I mean, there are times when it's like I've gotten lunch already, but maybe it's 3 o'clock and a lot has been on my plate, and I'm just like, I need to get up and clear my mind and breathe. The other thing I suggest is, if you can't do that, something my therapist taught me is to breathe in for 7 seconds and breathe out for 7 seconds. That has helped me a lot when I don't have time to get up from my desk, or even if I feel like a panic attack is coming on. That has helped me a lot. Something else I find that also helps me, especially if I'm home and I'm feeling anxious, is to watch funny videos or listen to a funny podcast. I have to thank Ross Matthews. His podcast is so funny. I don't listen to it at work anymore because I laugh out loud at my desk, but when I had that first job and I really didn't know how to cope, his podcast was so helpful, and it really was like an anti-anxiety medication, and it helped me laugh. I can work and listen to podcasts, and I find it helps me focus in general. So thank you so much, Ross Matthews. Your podcast is so funny. Also, I would say, do not feel ashamed if you feel like you need to go on medication or anything. Just from personal experiences I've had, I did not want to go on medication. It just wasn't for me. But some people feel like they have to go on medication, and you shouldn't be ashamed of yourself. Anxiety is something that we all have. We all get it. It's just that some of us get it more severe than others. And you hear YouTubers and celebrities talk about it all the time. I mean, look at Zoella. Zoella couldn't even travel and leave her house because her anxiety was so bad. I mean, some people have it to the point where it is crippling, and I was getting to that point, which is why I decided to go seek help. But yeah, I'm much better than I was. I will continue to seek therapy for however long I feel I need to. I'm very thankful I have a good therapist, and anxiety is just like self-destruction. As my therapist says, it's the automatic thinking of doom and gloom, and it's a hard thought to block out, but you can work towards blocking it out, and it's something that will pass, and it's something everyone gets, and it's nothing you should ever be ashamed of. So thank you so much for watching. I know this was a little bit more of a serious video. This is Petite Talks. My name is Jamie. My social media is below. Check out my last video if you want to get a laugh with my friend Krista, who visited me. We did the best friend tag, and there will be more videos to come. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.